Right, so we're going to be talking about Andre the Giant. I was going to do the other matches, but I thought I don't have the time to be doing that. So they'll be going out later. So I'm going to talk about Andre the Giant. So Andre Rene Roussimoff was known as Andre the Giant, a French professional wrestler and actor, dubbed the Eighth Wonder of the World. He was known for his great size and his which was a result of gigantism and excess human growth hormone. Beginning his career in 1966, he relocated to North America in 1971. From 1973 to the mid-80s, he was booked by WWF promoter Vince J. McMahon as a roving special attraction who wrestled for promotions throughout the United States as well as Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling. During the 80s wrestling boom, he became a mainstay for WWF by then renamed WWF, being paired with villainous manager Bobby Heenan and feuding with Hulk Hogan. The two headlined WrestleMania 3 in 1987, and in 1988 he defeated Hulk Hogan to win the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, his sole major World Heavyweight Championship. On an episode of Main Event, his WWF career wound down after WrestleMania in 1990. He wrestled primarily for All Japan Pro Wrestling, usually alongside Giant Baba, until his death. After his death in 1993, he became the inaugural inductee in the newly created WWF Hall of Fame. He received his second induction at WrestleMania 3 match with Hulk Hogan, was inducted for Immortal Moments category in 2026. He was also a charter member of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame and the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. The latter describes him as being one of the most recognizable figures in both professional wrestling and pop culture icon. Outside of wrestling, he's best known for appearing as Fezzik the Giant in the 1987 film The Princess Bride. So, in his early life, he was born in 19th May 1946 in Kolomyas scene at Marne to immigrants Boris Roussimoff and Marian Roussimoff Stoffi. His father was Bulgarian, his mother was Polish. He was raised as a Catholic and he had two older siblings and two younger. His childhood nickname was Didi. At birth, Andre weighed 13 pounds as a child. He displayed symptoms of gigantism, and he was noticed as being a good head taller rather than other kids, with abnormally large hands. And in the 70s television interview, he stated that his mother was 5'2" and his father was 6'2", and that according to his father, his grandfather was 7'8". So by the time he was 12, he stood at 191 centimeters, which was 6'3". He was an average student, though good at mathematics. When he was 14, he decided against further schooling and joined the workforce, believing that he would learn more. Was sufficient for a career as a farmhand. He did not drop out of school, as compulsory education laws in France were no longer accessible to those aged 14 or older. He spent years working on his father's farm in Raleigh, where he, according to his brother Jack, he could perform the work of free men. He also completed an apprenticeship in woodworking and then worked in a factory that manufactured engines for hay balers. None of these brought him any satisfaction. While growing up in the 50s, an Irish playwright Samuel Beckett was one of the several adults who sometimes drove local children to school, including him and his siblings. So in his early career, at the age of 18, he moved to Paris and then was taught professional wrestling by a local promoter, Robert Le Great, who was recognised as earning potential of his size. He trained at night and worked as a mover during the day and paid his living expenses. He was billed as Gain Ferret, a name based on Picardian folk hero Grand Ferret. This was later become Jean Ferret. Canadian promoter wrestler Frank Valuer met him in 1966, years later, and became his business manager and advisor. He began his career wrestling in his native France. He made his TV debut on French national television, Le Petit Prince. In 1968, he defeated Franz van Buyten for the FFCP World Heavyweight Championship. And in 1969, he appeared in the United Kingdom's World of Sport program Regular Wrestling slot, defeating Jim Hussey, father of Mark Rocco. He also began making his name for himself wrestling in Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and Africa. He made his Japanese debut for the International Wrestling Enterprise in 1970, billed as Monster Rizumov. Wrestling as both singles and tag team competitor, he quickly made his IWA World Tag Team Champion alongside Michael Nador. During his time in Japan, doctors first informed him that he was suffering from acromegaly. He then moved to Montreal, Canada in 1971, where he became an immediate success, regularly selling out Montreal Forum. Promoters eventually ran out of plausible opponents for him, and the novelty of his size wore off. Gate receipts dwindled. He was defeated by Adan Al-Kassi in Baghdad in 1971 and wrestled numerous times in 1971 for Vern Gagne's American Wrestling Association as a special attraction. Between 1973 and 1984, touring special attractions. So in 1973, Vincent J. McMahon, founder of World Wide Wrestling Federation, became his agent. McMahon suggested several changes to his booking and presentation to enhance his star power. He felt that Rizumov should be portrayed as a large, immovable monster, and to enhance his perception of his size, McMahon discouraged him from performing maneuvers such as dropkick. He also began billing him as Andre the Giant and set up a travel-intensive schedule, linking him to wrestling associations around the world to keep him from being overexposed in an area. Promoters had guaranteed a certain amount of money as well as pay McMahon's booking fee. On March 24th of March, in 1973, he debuted in World Wide Wrestling Federation, later World Wrestling Federation, as a fan favourite, defeating Frank Valuis and Paul Palmetti in a handicap match in Philadelphia. 2 days later, he made a debut in New York's Madison Square Garden, defeating Buddy Wolf. He was one of the professional wrestling's most beloved babyfaces throughout the 1970s and 1980s. As such, Gorilla Monsoon often stated that he had not been defeated in 15 years by pinfall or submission prior to WrestleMania 3. He had lost matches outside of WWF, a loss to Adan Al-Kassi and in Baghdad in Iraq in 1971, pinfall losses to Don Leo Jonathan in Montreal in 1972, Killer Kowalski in Quebec City in 1972, 2 draws and a count-out loss to The Sheik in Toronto in 1974, after a fireball was thrown at Andre's face, knockout to Jerry Lawler in Memphis in 1975, and a count-out to Lawler in Louisville 1977. Draw with Bobo Brazil in a Battle Royal in Detroit in 1976, Ronnie Garvin in Knoxville in 1978, Stan Hansen by disqualification in Japan in 1981, Kamala by count-out in Toronto in 1984, and Kanek in Mexico 1984, submission losses in Japan to Strong Kabishi in 1972 and Inoki in 1986. He had also 60-minute time limit draws to 2 of the 3 major world champions of the day, Harley Racing Houston in 1979 and Nick Bockwinkel in Chicago in 1976. In 1976, as the second showdown of the Shea, Rizumov fought professional boxer Chuck Webner in an unscripted boxing versus wrestler fight. The wild fight was shown via telecast as part of the undercard of Muhammad Ali vs Tony Inoki fight, and ended when he threw Webner over the top rope and outside the ring and won via countout. In 1976, that's the wrong bit. In 1980, he feuded with Hulk Hogan when he was unlike their famous matches in the late 1980s. Hogan was the villain and Andre was the hero, wrestling at Shea Stadium in the 3rd showdown of the Shea event in Pennsylvania, where after Andre pinned Hogan to win the match, Hogan body slammed him, much like the legendary WrestleMania 3 match in 1987. The feud continued in Japan in 1982 and 1983, where the roles reversed and Antonio Inoki also involved. One of Andre's feuds pitted him against Mongolian Giant's Killing Khan. According to the storyline, Khan snapped Andre's ankle during a match in 1981 in Rochester, New York, by leaping off the top rope and crashing down upon his knee with a knee drop. In reality, he had broken his ankle getting out of bed in the morning before the match. The injury and subsequent rehabilitation was worked into the existing Andre Khan storyline. After a stay at Beth Israel Hospital in Boston, Andre returned with payback on his mind. The two battled in 1981 at Madison Square Garden in a match that resulted in his double disqualification. The feud continued as fans filled arenas up and down the East Coast to witness their matches. At the Philadelphia Spectrum, he decisively defeated Khan in what was billed as the Mongolian stretcher match, in which the loser would be taken out in the dressing room on a stretcher. The same type of match was held in Toronto in early 1982. The two also fought in a series of matches in Japan, with Arnold Skakland in Andre's corner. So, with the World Wrestling Federation, his feud with the Heenan family. So in 1982, Vincent J. McMahon sold the World Wrestling Federation to his son, Vince McMahon. As McMahon began to expand his newly acquired promotion to the national level, he required his wrestlers to be exclusively for him. He signed Andre to these terms in 1984, although he was still allowed him to work for Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Andre feud with Big John Studd, over which the two men was the true giant of wrestling. This throughout the early mid-80s. Andre and Studd fought all over the world, battling to try and determine who the real giant was. In 1984, Studd took the feud to a new level when he and his partner Ken Pachara knocked out Andre during the televised tag match. Proceeded to cut off his hair. After gaining revenge on Pachara, Andre met Studd in a body slam challenge. After WrestleMania, he held on the 31st of March 1985 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Andre slams Studd to win the match and collects the $15,000 prize, then proceeded to throw cash at fans before having the bag taken from him by Studd's manager Bobby the Brain Heenan. Andre continued to display his dominance, winning the 20-man Battle Royal that featured top National Football League stars and wrestlers. He also wrestled Bret Hart to win the contest. Fought in the final tour of New Japan Pro Wrestling in mid-1986 and won the Austria over CWA World Champion Otto Wanz. Andre began appearing exclusively for the WWF. After WrestleMania 2, Andre continued his feud with Studd and King Kong Bundy. Around this time, Andre requested leave of absence to tend to his health, since the effects of his acromegaly were beginning to take their toll, as well as a tour to Japan. He had been cast in the film Princess Bride. To explain his absence, the storyline he was developed in which Heenan suggested that Andre was secretly afraid of Studd and Bundy, whom Heenan bragged were unbeatable. Challenged Andre and his partner of his choosing to wrestle Studd and Bundy in a televised tag match. When Andre failed to show, the WWF president Jack Tunney definitely suspended him, while later in that summer of 1986, Andre returned to the United States. He was wearing a mask and competing at the Giant Machine, as they were known as the Machines. Big Machine and Super Machine were the other members. Hulk Hogan as Hulk Machine and Roddy Piper as Piper Machine were also one-time characters. The WS Television announced sold the Machines, a gimmick that was copied for the New Japan Pro Wrestling character, the Super Strong Machine, played by Japanese wrestler Juni Hirata, as the new tag team from Japan, and claimed not to know the identities of the wrestlers, even though it was obvious to the fans that it was Andre competing as the Giant Machine. Heenan stood on Bundy, complained to Tunney, who eventually told Heenan that if it could be proven that Andre and the Giant Machine were the same person, Andre would be fired. And Andre was Andre thwarted Heenan, stood and Bundy at every turn. Then in late 1986, the machine disappeared and Andre was reinstated, foreshadowing Andre's heel turn. Heenan expressed his disapproval of the reinstatement but did not explain why. Andre agreed to a heel turn in early 1987 to be counter for the biggest babyface of professional wrestling, Hulk Hogan. On an additional Piper's Pit in 1987, Hogan was presented as a trophy for being the WWF World Heavyweight Champion for 3 years. Andre came out to congratulate him, shaking Hogan's hand with a strong grip, which surprised the Hulkster. On the following week's Piper's Pit, Andre presented a slightly smaller trophy, the only undefeated wrestler in wrestling history, although he had suffered a handful of count-out and disqualification losses in WWF. He had never been pinned or forced to submit in a WWF ring. Hogan came out to congratulate him and ended up being the focal point of the interview. Apparently annoyed, Andre walked out and missed Hogan's speech. A discussion between Andre and Hogan was scheduled, and on Piper's Pit, that aired 7 February 1987, the two met. Hogan was introduced first, followed by Andre, who was led by longtime rival Bobby Heenan. Speaking on behalf of the New Page Day, Heenan accused Hogan of being Andre's friend only when he would not have to defend his title against him. Hogan tried to reason with Andre, but his pleas were ignored as he challenged Hogan for a match for the championship at WrestleMania 3. Hogan was still seemingly in disbelief that Andre of what Andre was doing, prompting Heenan to say, "You can't believe it, maybe you'll believe this, Hogan," before Andre ripped the t-shirt and crucifix from Hogan, in which the crucifix scratching Hogan's chest, causing him to bleed. At WrestleMania 3, he was billed at 520 pounds, and the stress of such immense weight on his bones and joints resulted in constant pain. After recent back surgery, he was wearing a brace underneath his wrestling singlet in front of a record crowd. Hogan won the match after Bonnie slamming Andre. Followed by Hogan's running leg drop finisher. Years later, Hogan claimed that Andre was so heavy he felt more like 320 kg, that's just about 700 pounds, and that he tore his latimus dorsi muscle when slamming him. Another myth that was about the match that no one, even WWF owner Vince McMahon, knew until this day of the event whether Andre would lose the match. In reality, he agreed to lose the match sometime before, mostly for his health reasons. Contrary to popular belief, it was not the first time Hogan had successfully body slammed him in WWF history in a WWF match, and then he or Hogan had slammed him and then at face Andre following their match showdown at the Shea in 1980, though Andre was somewhat lighter, about 470 pounds, and then more athletic at the time. This took place in the territorial days of American wrestling 3 years before WWF became national. So many of these who watched WrestleMania 3 had never seen the Giant slammed. By the time WrestleMania 3 and the WWF went national, giving more meaning to the Andre Hogan match that took place then, the feud between Andre and Hogan simmered in summer of 1987 as rumours of health declined. The feud began heating up again when wrestlers were named as captains of rival teams at the inaugural Survivor Series. During this, approximately 1 minute battling each other during the match, Hogan dominated Andre and was brink of knocking him from the ring, but was tripped up by his partners Bundy and one-man gang and would be counted out. Andre went on to be the sole survivor of the match, pinning Bam Bam Bigelow before Hogan returned to the ring and attacked Andre, knocking him out of the ring. Andre later got revenge after Hogan won a match against Bundy on Saturday Saturday night's main event, he snuck up behind and began choking Hogan at the brink of unconsciousness, not letting him go, even after the army of 7-faced aligned wrestlers ran to the ring and tried to pull him away. It took hacksaw Jim Duggan breaking a piece of wood over his back, which he no-sold for him to let go, after which Hogan was pulled to safety, as was the case with the SME Battle Royal between Hogan and years earlier. The series of events helped build interest in the possible one-on-one rematch between Hogan and Andre and make it seem like that Andre was certain to win easily when they did not meet. Meanwhile, Andre returned to Germany in December 1987 for another match against Wands, which he lost by count-out. In the meantime, Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase failed to persuade Hogan to sell him the WWF World Championship after failing to defeat Hogan in subsequent series of matches. DiBiase turned to Andre to win it for him. He and DiBiase had teamed several times in the past, including in Japan, in WWF in the late 70s and early 80s, when both faces at the time. But this was an acknowledgement. This was not acknowledged during this new storyline. The earlier attack and DiBiase's insertion into the feud set up Hogan Andre rematch on the main event to air 5th February 1988 on a live broadcast NBC. Acting as a hired gun, Andre won the championship from Hogan in the match, where it was later revealed that appointed referee Dave Hebner was detained backstage, and a replacement who Hogan, after was initially accused of having been paid by DiBiase to get plastic surgery to look like Dave, but it was revealed that it was actually his evil twin brother Earl Hebner, who made a 3 count on Hogan while Hogan's left shoulder was off the mat. After winning, Andre sold the title to DiBiase. The transaction was declared invalid by the WWF president Jack Tunney, and the title was declared vacant. This was shown on WWF's NBC program Main Event at WrestleMania. Andre and Hulk Hogan fought a double disqualification in a WWF title tournament match. Afterwards, Andre and Hogan's feud died down after the steel cage match at WrestleFest on 31st of July 1988 in Milwaukee. Hogan was the winner. At the inaugural SummerSlam pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden, Andre and DiBiase built the Megabucks face Hogan and WWF World Champion Macho Man Randy Savage, known as the Mega Powers, in the main event, with Jesse the Body Ventura as the special guest referee. During the match, the Mega Powers, Miss Elizabeth distracted the Megabucks. Ventura, when she climbed on the apron, removed her yellow skirts and walked around a pair of red panties. This allowed Hogan and Savage to recover and eventually win the match, pinning DiBiase. Savage forced Ventura's hand down for the final 3 count due to Ventura's character historically at the odds with Hogan, and was unwilling to count the fall. Concurrent with the developing feud between the Mega Powers and Rousimov was placed in a feud with Jim Duggan, which began after Duggan knocked Andre out with a 2x4 during television taping. Despite Duggan's popularity with fans, Andre regularly got the upper hand in the feuds. Andre's major feud against the Jake the Snake Robert in the storyline, it was said that Rousimov was afraid of snakes, something Robert exposed on Saturday night's main event, and he threw the snake. Damien on frightened Rousimov. As a result, he suffered a kayfabe mild heart attack and vowed revenge. During the next few weeks, Roberts frequently walked ringside carrying his new snake in its bag during Andre's matches, causing the latter to run from the ring in a fight. Throughout their feud, Roberts constantly used Damien to gain the psychological edge over the much larger, stronger Andre. In 1989, Rousimov and the returning Big John Studd briefly respired their feud, beginning at WrestleMania 5, when Studd was refereeing the match with Roberts, and this time Studd as a face and Andre as a heel. During the late summer and autumn of 1989, Andre engaged in a brief feud consisting entirely of house shows and a one television match at Madison Square Garden, and then Intercontinental Champion Ultimate Warrior. Andre began to wear face paint with a similar design to Warrior and began calling himself the Ultimate Giant. When he appeared on the Brother Love show, the younger Warrior, rising star, regularly squashed the aging Andre in an attempt to showcase his star quality and promote him as the next big thing. In late 1989, Andre joined with fellow Heenan family members Haku to form the new tag team called the Colossal Collection, in part to fill the void left by Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, who were members of the Heenan stable from WWF, and also to continue to keep the aging Andre in the main event spotlight. He lost to Ultimate Warrior in 20 seconds at a house show in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, I think that is, on the 11th December 1989. His single match was a loss to the Ultimate Warrior in 1990 at a house show in New Orleans, Louisiana. The Colossal Connection immediately targeted the WWF Tag Team Champions, Demolition, at television tapings. The Colossal Connection defeated the Demolition to win the titles. Andre and Haku successfully defended the titles, mostly against Demolition until WrestleMania 6, when Demolition took advantage of the mistimed move by the champions and regained the belts. After the match, furious, Heenan blamed him for the title loss after he was shouting at him. Before Heenan slapped him in the face, an angry Andre responded with a slap of his own and sent Heenan staggering from the ring. Andre also caught Haku's kick attempt, sending him reeling from the ring, as well as prompting support and turning Andre face for the first time since 1987. Due to the ongoing health issues, Andre was unable to wrestle at the time of WrestleMania 6, and Haku actually wrestled the entire match against Demolition without tagging him in. On the weekend of television shows following WrestleMania 6, Bobby Heenan vowed to spit in Andre's face. When he came calling back to the Heenan family, he wrestled one more time with Haku, teaming up to face Demolition on a house show in Honolulu. Andre was knocked out of the ring, and the Colossal Connection lost via countout. After the match, Andre and Haku would fight each other, making the end of the team. His final WWF match was in 1990, came at a combined WWF All Japan New Japan show in Tokyo, Japan, when he teamed with Great Baba to defeat the Demolition in the non-title match. Andre won by pinning smash. Now I'm going to get into the sporadic appearances in 1990 to 1991. He returned in the winter of 1990, but it was not the WWF. Instead, Andre made an interview appearance with Herb Abrams, UWF, in Pasadena, California. He appeared in the interview segment Captain Lou Albano, but put over the UWF. The following month, the house show in Miami, Florida, the WWF announced that his return as a participant in the 1999 Royal Rumble. Andre was mentioned as a participant in the television, but wouldn't ultimately back out due to a leg injury. His on-air return finally took place at the WWF Superstars and Stripes Forever US Network special, when he came out to shake the hand of Big Boss Man after an altercation with Mr. Perfect. The following week at WrestleMania 7, he came out to aid the Big Boss Man in his match against Mr. Perfect. Andre finally returned to action in April 1991 in the six-man tag matchup when he teamed with the Rockers in a winning effort against Fuji and the Orient Express at a house show in Northern Ireland. Participated in a 17-man battle royal at a house show in Detroit, which was won by Kerry Von Erich. This was Andre's final WWF match, although he involved in several subsequent storylines. His last major WWF storyline following WrestleMania 7 had major heel managers trying to recruit Andre one by one, only to be turned down in various humiliating ways. Finally, Jimmy Hart appeared live on WWF Superstars to announce that he had successfully signed Andre to team with Earthquake. When he asked to confirm this by Gene Oakland, Andre denied the claims and led that earthquake, attacking Andre from behind. Jimmy Hart would later get on revenge and humiliation by secretly signing Tugboat to form the Natural Disasters. This led to Andre's final major WWF appearance at SummerSlam 1991, where he seconded the Bushwhackers in their match against the Disasters. Andre was on crutches at ringside after the Disasters won the match. They set out to attack him, but the Legion of Doom made their way to ringside and got in between them and the Giant, who was preparing to defend himself with one of his crutches. The Disasters left the ringside area, and then they were outnumbered by the Legion of Doom and the Bushwhackers and Andre, who struck both Earthquake and Typhoon with the crutch as they left. His final WWF appearance came at a house show in Paris, France in 1991. He was Davey Boy Smith's corner at the Bulldogs as the Bulldog faced Earthquake. Smith hit Earthquake with Andre's crutch, allowing Smith to win. We'll get into the last bit of his wrestling career, and then we'll get into the little bit on his acting career and his personal life afterwards. So All Japan Pro Wrestling and UWA Association between 1990 and 1992. So after WrestleMania 6, Andre spent the rest of his in-ring career at All Japan Pro Wrestling and Mexico's Universal Wrestling Association, where he performed under the name Andre El Gigante. He toured with AJPW 3 times per year from 1990 to 1992, usually teamed with Giant Bubba in tag team matches. Andre met a couple of guest appearances at Herb Abrams' UWF in 1991, feuding with Big John Studd, though he never had a match in the promotion. His last US television appearance, Andre was at WCW Clash of Champions XX special that had aired on TBS 2nd September 1992, where he gave a brief interview. During the same event, he appeared alongside Gordon Solie, where he was later seen talking with him during a gala celebration 20th anniversary wrestling on TBS. His final tour of Mexico in 1992 in a selection of 6-man tag matches alongside Bam Bam Bigelow and a variety of Lucha Libre stars, facing among others Bad News Allen and the future WWF champion Yokozuna. Andre made his final tour of AJPW from October to December 1992. He wrestled what became his final match of his career on 4th December 1992, teaming with Giant Baba Rush Kimura to defeat Haruki Aigen, Masanobu Fuji, and Motoshai Akuma. So that is it for his wrestling career. We're going to get into his acting career. So in his acting career, he branched out into acting in the 70s and 80s after the 1967 French boxing film, making his US acting debut as Sasquatch in a 2-part episode aired in 1976 on television series $6 Million Man. He appeared in other television shows such as The Greatest American Hero, BJ and the Bear, The Fall of the Guy, and the 1990s Zorro. Towards the end of his career, Andre appeared in several films. His uncredited appearance in 1984 film Conan the Destroyer as Dagoth, the resurrected horned giant god who killed by Conan. The same year, he also made an appearance as Mickey Maud, billed as Andre Roussimoff. He appeared mostly notably as Fezzik, his own favourite role, in the 1987 The Princess Bride. Andre found it novel and especially gratifying that no one stared at him on set productions. Both the films he performed in retained devoted followings, and in a short interview with Lanny Poffo, Andre stated that in the movie meant to supply dinner, drinks, He said that the movie meant so much to him that he made his wrestling pals watch advanced copies on VHS with him over and over again while supplying dinner, drinks, and sweetly asking each time, "Did you like my performance?" In his last film, he appeared in a cameo role in The Circus Giant and the comedy Trading Mom, which was released in 1994, a year after his death. So now into his personal life. He was mentioned in the 1974 Guinness World Records as the highest paid wrestler in history. His earned salary is approximately $400,000, equivalent to $2,611,000 in 2025 at the time. Robin Christens is Andre's only child. Her mother, Jean, who died in 2008, became acquainted with Andre through the wrestling business in 1972 or 1973 and had a regular contact with her father, but only saw him 5 times in her life. After his death, she spoke positively about her father and became a guardian of his image and legacy. On April 17th, 2026, appeared alongside Nick Hogan at the WWE Hall of Fame, where their respective fathers. A WrestleMania 3 match was inducted into the Hall of Fame. In 1989, he was arrested and charged with assault after he attacked a KCRG TV cameraman, shooting his match with Ultimate Warrior at the Cedar Rapids, Iowa 5 Seasons Carter. While acquitted on assault charges, he was fined $100 for criminal mischief in order to pay KCRG $233 in damage for the equipment. William Goldman, the author and novelist screenplay The Princess Bride, wrote in his non-fiction work Which Lie Do I Tell that Andre was the gentlest and most generous person he had ever known. Whenever Andre ate out with someone in a restaurant, he would pay, but he would also insist on paying when he was a guest. On one of the occasions, after Andre attended dinner with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Will Chamberlain, Schwarzenegger had quietly moved to the cashier to pay before Andre could, but then found himself being physically lifted, carried from his table and deposited on top of the car by Rusmov and Chamberlain. Andre owned a ranch in North Carolina, looked after by 2 of his closest friends when he was not on the road. When he was not on the road, he loved spending time at his ranch, where he tended to his cattle, played with his dogs, and entertained his friends. While he was there, in a costume-made chair and a few other modifications in his home to accommodate his size, tales that everything in his home was costume-made. A large man, and said that it would be exaggerated. Since Andre could not easily go shopping due to his fame and size, he was known to spend hours watching and purchase items on the shopping channel QVC. Andre was good friends with fellow professional wrestler William Eadie, better known as Axe, and in a 2016 interview, Eadie revealed that Andre was a godfather to his 2 daughters. His health was dubbed as so we're going to go on about his health. So he has been dubbed the greatest drunk on earth for once consuming 919 12 US fluids ounce, which is 350 millilitres of beers in total, over 41 litres in 6 hours. In an appearance on The Late Night with David Letterman, Rusmov told Letterman that he once drank 117 beers. When Letterman asked if he was drunk, Andre said that he couldn't remember because he was passed out. He also said that he quit drinking beer 14 months prior to his appearance on Letterman. On an episode of WWE's Legends of Wrestling, Mike Graham said that Andre once drank 156 16 US fluid ounce, 470 millilitres beers which is over 73 litres in one sitting, which was confirmed by Dusty Rhodes. The Fabulous Moolah wrote in her autobiography that Andre drank 127 beers at the bar and Arbor bar of the Abraham Lincoln Hotel in Reading, Pennsylvania, and later passed out in the lobby. Staff could not move him and had to leave him there until he awoke. In a shoot interview, Ken Patera recalled an occasion that Andre was challenged by Dick Murdoch to a beer drinking contest. After 9 hours or so, Andre had drank 116 beers, a tale recounted by Kerry Alous in his book about making The Princess Bride, he has Andre falling on top of somebody while drunk, which the NYPD sent an undercover officer to follow Andre around whenever he was drinking in the city to make sure that he's not fallen on anyone again. Another story says that prior to his famous WrestleMania 3 match, he drank 14 bottles of wine. Hulk Hogan has stated that Andre drank a case of 12 bottles of Polari Fuzi during the 3-hour bus journey. No urban legend exists surrounding Andre's 1987 surgery, in which his side made it impossible for the anesthesiologist to estimate the dosage via the standard methods. Consequently, his alcohol tolerance was used as a guideline instead. Some reports claim that this is true. Some stories of Andre eating have circulated in such a dinner that he's had 16-ounce steaks and 15 lobsters in one sitting. However, according to his usual travelling partner Tim White, he only ate so much on an occasion to show off, saying he had a substantial appetite, but for his size it was completely normal. Andre has severe pericardial effusion and underwent pericarditis, I think that is, at Duke Hospital in the 1980s. Now we're going to get on to his death. So on the morning of 28th January 1993, Andre died of heart failure and an apparent heart attack in his sleep, likely associated with untreated acromegaly at his Paris hotel at the age of 46. After he visited and played cards in Moline with some of his oldest friends on the night of January 27th, 1993, he returned to his hotel at 1 a.m. at CAT on 28th January. 12 hours later in the afternoon, he was found dead in his hotel room by hotel management and his chauffeur. He was in Paris at the time and attended his father's funeral. While there, he had decided to extend his stay to be with his mother on her birthday. In his will, he specified that his remains would be cremated and disposed of. Upon his death in Paris, his family in France had held a funeral for him, intending to bury him near his father. When they learned his wish to be cremated, his body was flown to the United States, where he was cremated according to his wishes. His ashes were scattered on his ranch, additionally in accordance with his will, and he left his estate to his daughter Robin as his sole beneficiary. Obviously, he has quite a big legacy with the Andre the Battle Royal, Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. He has some biographies going on and some like novels. I think that pitch novels he has as well. So he's got some biopics too. Obviously, he's not won many championships. I think he's won a couple. I think one of them, obviously the WWF one, I think they class him, but they kind of avoided it because he sold it off in storyline. Obviously, this is quite a long video, but I just thought I'd do Andre the Giant for a change because I haven't really done him. I think the last guy I did was Sammy Guevara, and he's number one, and then Nathan James before that, where he was slightly newer, but not as new as Sammy, but newer than Andre the Giant. So I thought I'd do a legend, a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I think the next one I probably will do, but might do the rest of the matches, but it won't be probably until Friday I do the next one. Maybe, depends. Maybe Friday, Saturday or Sunday or next week. I know I've done a few this week compared to what I usually would. Oh, last week I did as well, but hopefully you like this one.